In this video, I want to get back to the 1888 debate that took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota, the General Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Actually, it was a two-part debate that took place. One part of it dealt with righteousness by faith alone, or salvation through faith alone, from a Protestant standpoint, that is. And the other dealt with the 10 horns of Daniel chapter 7. I'm going to deal with the 10 horns of Daniel chapter 7 first, and then I will deal with the rest of the debate, which is a little bit longer, on righteousness by faith. But before I begin on the righteousness by faith, I want to read to you something from a Seventh-day Adventist by the name of Tom Norris. Now remember, this man is a Seventh-day Adventist, and this concerns the 1888 debate. And I quote from Tom Norris, quote, "This debate is also the reason why D.M. Kenwright left the church and became its most famous critic in Nesmus, and also why Ellen White went to war against Uriah Smith and why she was exiled to Australia. It was also why Uriah Smith was fired from the review shortly before his death. But these facts and many others have been deliberately hidden from the Adventist community, and thus the history of the 1888 has not been fully or correctly understood by historians or scholars, much less the church. In fact, the White estate has been caught hiding thousands of documents about 1888 for generations, and they have yet to confess the massive fraud, much less explain the true history and significance surrounding the 1888 conflict." End quote. Part of that conflict, as I had mentioned, dealt with the 10 horns of Daniel chapter 7. Uriah Smith had listed those 10 horns, and this is the 10 horns that the Seventh-day Adventists try to slander the Catholic Church with, in anything to try to do in this, trying to slander the Catholic Church by talking about these 10 horns. Now then, in this debate, there was a man by the name of Jones who was one of the proponents of righteousness by faith and showing the errors of the 10 horns. But his name was A.T. Jones. And Uriah Smith was adamant that he could not be wrong about the 10 kingdoms, or the 10 horns of Daniel chapter 7. But yet, A.T. Jones proved through historical facts that he was wrong. And I quote again from Tom Norris, who is a Seventh-day Adventist, and I quote, "Here's the root of the problem. The SDAs under the leadership of Smith, Butler, and Kenwright were so arrogant that they refused to admit any error. In fact, Smith told Jones that it's dangerous for the church to admit error. Why? Because people might get the idea that there were more errors to come, then all would be lost. Thus, the SDA leaders could not imagine that they could be wrong on any point, large or small. In those days, when they claimed that they had all the truth, they really meant it. In other words, they were not going to," end quote there, "they were not going to admit that they made any errors or that Smith could be wrong about the 10 kingdoms or the 10 horns of Daniel chapter 7 that they had used for years now to slander the Catholic Church." Quoting further from Tom Norris again, who is a Seventh-day Adventist, and I quote, he says this, I quote, "Jones turned out to be correct about his point about the Huns. In other words, they weren't one of the kingdoms or one of the 10 horns of Daniel chapter 7. Let me repeat this again, quoting, "Jones turned out to be correct about the point about the Huns. So too was Wagner correct about the larger point of the gospel and the two covenants that was the main point of the 1888 debate. But the leaders would never acknowledge their errors, much less repent. This led to a great schism that almost destroyed the SDA church, and leaders fled to Tacoma Park, where they hid the story of 1888, and once again became legalistic and arrogant." End quote. In other words, part of this debate dealt with the 10 horns of Daniel chapter 7 that the leaders of Seventh-day Adventists had pushed for years trying to slander the Catholic Church as they normally and as they have been for over 150 years now. And here was a young man by the name of A.T. Jones who proved through historical facts that the 10 horns that the Seventh-day Adventists had promoted for years in Daniel chapter 7 was totally wrong. Their reply was, well, if we admit this error, then what other errors will the people think that will follow? So rather than admit they make an error, they stick with a lie and continue to promote that lie today for one reason, that is several reasons actually. One, to protect the writings of Ellen White, and two, to slander the Catholic Church. They knew the truth, they rejected the truth to believe a lie and promote a lie. Until next time, this has been Golly saying, God bless.